Hi everyone, thank you so much for joining us today. I am here interviewing a friend of mine named Peter, and he happens to be a horticulturalist. And what that means is this is someone who is in charge of the art and management of landscape and gardens. And as you'll see throughout the interview, you will just see these magnificent photos of the things that he's worked on. So Peter, thank you for joining me.
Thank you.
So my first question, how did you begin, in horticulture and gardening in general?
Well, it goes way back to my childhood when I used to help my father in the yard with transplanting shrubs and trees into the yard. And my first job as a horticulturist was I was probably 10 years old, got hired to weed in my neighbor's yard for $2 an hour.
Where are some of the places that someone who's interested in becoming a horticulturalist could start with, education or learning the skills that they would need to do this job?
Well, I attended the Bronx Botanical Garden, the gardening program that they had there, and I got a certificate in gardening from there. Involved taking, some courses over a couple of years, and I've always remembered a lot of the things that I've learned there from some of their great teachers. But I highly recommend botanical garden places that offer courses in gardening and horticulture.
Where do you do your work right now?
I work at the Garrison Institute in Garrison. There's a number of gardens I work in, and indoors I have some indoor plants, and I have a grow room and a potting room.
Do you like to kind of work throughout different spaces?
Yeah, I float around indoor, outdoor, especially on a rainy day like today. I spend all days indoors repotting some indoor plants and taking care of the rest of them.
How do you deal with challenges that come up? Like if you have a plan for something and you've organized this garden and then something just doesn't quite work, or something is not growing the way you plan it to.
Well, I alter my plans then. I usually remember how I did things, the year before, and certain crops and certain plants, what conditions they like and all. But some things come up, like suddenly there's a baby woodchuck finding his way through the fence into the garden and starting to eat everything. Then I become a fence builder.
One of the things that we talk about in school a lot is, really adapting and overcoming challenges. And I like that approach, just what you mentioned, that, if something happens, you maybe learn another skill or you bring in another skill set. And I think that really relates to the things that we work on all the time in school. How does being an artist change how you see the world, especially because your world does also include, not only the art piece and maybe the final product of how your gardens look, but that hard work that goes behind it?
I'm around gardens, particularly flowers. The landscape is there's a lot of greenery involved, but basically I encourage in my line of work, I'm encouraging floriferous scenes. So the more flowers there are to look at, there's more to enjoy then. So I find myself surrounded by the beauty of flowers, and when I'm not working, I do always tend to notice nice landscape scene or a flowering tree perhaps, and been taken to taking a lot of pictures. The older I get, the more refined it is of what it is that I do admire the most and what I try to achieve in my own gardens.
Photography is one of the units that we worked on, and one of the things I noticed as a common theme with many of my students is that they really took to taking pictures of, the natural world and getting outside, especially during springtime. And you yourself are quite the photographer. I noticed just in some of the things that I've seen of your work, the photography element is really important too. So you can add that to your list of accomplishments as well. So I'm very inspired by the fact that, you started this process and you started this journey so many years ago, with just these simple little gardening practices and habits, like you mentioned when you were young, and to see, that it's been a lifetime of your work and your journey and your path, to me is really, really inspirational. And especially I love flowers and natural elements. So, to be able to work with that as your medium is such a gift. So I really appreciate you sharing all of that with us. So thank you so much for joining us today. And thank you for really enlightening us into this world that you work in. Again, it's something that we don't always hear about. So I'm so inspired and I'm so excited to hear about this and the way that your life has been so touched by the world of nature and being able to get outside and being able to enjoy that. So thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you, Monica.
Thanks, Peter.